I said before that I would break the vicious cycle of only playing one Assassin's Creed game a year and then forgetting about the rest entirely by playing more Assassin's Creed this year, and I do plan to keep that promise. There may be an ungodly number of sequels, spin-offs, and side stories, but I unironically want to play and review them all. So here we are. After Assassin's Creed Brotherhood cemented the series as a beloved one, and Ezio earned his title of one of the best protagonists in gaming, Ubisoft decided it was time to wrap up his story, give the tale of Ezio a grand finale, and what a better way to do it than by returning to the Middle East, where everything has started with Altair. Once again, since this is a yearly franchise and many use this to accuse these games of being all the same, my reviews are not going to focus on basic systems we may have already discussed in previous videos. But rather, we will take a look at the things that help these games stand on their own, and how they fare in comparison. But as usual, let's cover the basics first. Assassin's Creed Revelations puts us for the final time on the old roads of Ezio Auditore. Having conquered Rome and established one of the strongest cells for the Brotherhood's history, he now focuses on one final adventure: to travel to Masyaf, home of the old assassin castle, to find Altair's legendary vault, in search for answers for the otherworldly things the pieces of Eden have showed him across his life. But soon enough, he finds out the abandoned castle has been raided by the Templars, and in order to open the vault itself, he has to find 5 keys, all of them hidden in the city of Constantinople, with the last one in the hands of the Templars themselves, who also happen to be clashing with the local faction of the Brotherhood. So for this final adventure, Ezio has to put his skills as a mentor to good use, to end the conflict and reclaim the keys. And that's about it. One detail I really enjoyed about this entire trilogy is how each entry has very different circumstances behind your adventure. In the case of this game, there is no clear-cut winner in the local conflict with the Byzantine Templars, so it's not like you have to start your Brotherhood from zero. Instead, you actually help the very competent and capable Brotherhood secure their territory. The Borgia Towers have evolved, and in their place we get the Assassin Dens. And they improve my favorite aspects of that system. For one, you actually have to track down the commander controlling the den. To do this, you have to either sneak around or just fight your way through, careful not to alert the commander himself. These are a lot tougher, and I enjoyed fighting my way around, since the gameplay encourages you to actually put all of your skills to good use. The real fun of the dance, however, comes in the form of the conflict not being over just because you kick the Templars out. It actually is possible for them to launch a counterattack and try to retake the den from you, and when that happens, you get to put into a tower defense minigame, and I love every aspect of it. Den Defense has Ezio set up barricades and his own assassins to take on multiple waves of Templar soldiers. The catch and the challenge here is you have to pay moral points in order to summon your assassins. Those points you can earn gradually with time, or by having your men and yourself kill and defeat enemies, turning this minigame into a challenge of strategy and resource management, as you have to think fast and set up the right units to help with the hardened enemies and achieve a perfect defense. Once you secure the den for good, and you recruit new assassins and level them up through the defense contract missions, is where 2 new layers of fun show up, because this time around, each assassin den has a mini-story arc attached to them. When your recruits achieve a certain level, you can assign them to become the leaders of each den. Once they are put in charge is when their little stories begin. This is what I wanted out of the Templar Agent missions from Brotherhood. In this game, now more than ever, the Templars show they are more than a match for the assassins. Each Templar agent you face in the 10 missions got their own story and their own motivations, and no 2 missions are the same. With the first part of the story being Ezio imparting his wisdom on the rookie den leaders, and with the second part being the grand conclusion, for this one is where we get to see each Templar actually show some character. It's a world of a difference to hear what was driving the enemy as they relay their final words to you or your recruits, showing you how there is 1,000 stories happening around you. But of course, this is only the most important side activity in the game. What about the rest? After all, the title of the game is Revelations, so what is being revealed to us in here? A lot, really. I think one of the most important aspects in an open world game is that you need to have cohesion in it. Have side content that lets you take a break from the main story, but implement them in a way that makes sense for our character to be doing them. For example, Why is Ezio climbing towers? Because he's trying to find books hidden in several buildings across the city, containing clues to where the massive keys are. Why is Ezio hanging out with the local factions? To make allies out of them so they can help each other out when the time comes to face the Templars. Why is the player collecting little bits of data scattered on the rooftops? Because they actually contain fragments of Desmond's mind, not part of the modern story. They add little details, but they actually help in making things make a bit more sense, and to actually feel like the stuff we are doing in the game is actually carrying a bit more meaning and weight than just removing another activity from the checklist. Of course, when you have an open world where you are constantly moving from point A to point B, you want the traversal system to be the best. And thankfully, I think this game has the best incarnation of the parkour I have experienced so far. Just like how I said the game design lets me actually use all my tools this time around instead than combat, the same is said when it comes to the parkour. Given Ezio's age, his movement skills are not what it used to be, so the younger assassin set him up with a hook blade. And this changes a lot of things. Now, when you climb and you jump, you can use the hook blade to push yourself faster. Zip lines are scattered around the map to help you get a quick getaway, and hanging lamps can be used to cover longer jumps. It's a very simple addition, I know, but the way it improves on the parkour system is what it makes it a lot more fun and refreshing to play, especially since this is now the 4th game I played in the series so far. Now, I know this is still pretty clunky, but as I've been going through this series, there is a few things I have come to learn about the parkour. I complained in the past about the system being weird with betraying you and leading you in places you don't want to be, if not downright launching you off a rooftop until you're dead. Playing this game, I learned that was actually my fault for the most part. See, in order to start climbing walls, you need to hold the run button and the jump button at the same time, but only for starting the climb itself. You only truly need to press it again if you need to jump from obstacle to obstacle. Holding it down causes you to jump whatever direction you were holding first, so when you're in a panic racing against time or trying to catch a target, it's little wonder why I will end up sabotaging myself so much. So the trick is that even if the game wants you to hurry up, you have to actually stay calm and move one step at a time instead of holding all buttons. Rather amazing that for as much as we make fun of constant tutorial pop-ups in modern gaming, paying attention to them is actually what ends up saving you. You know what also ends up saving you? Bombs. I will say when I started this game and saw there was crafting materials you can pick up from dead bodies or chests, I got worried I was gonna deal with one of those games. Thankfully, this is only for the bomb crafting. This time around, bombs come in multiple categories: intensity and tactical uses. Unlike smoke bombs in the previous games, you can actually restock them on the fly as long as you got the materials. Perfect for crowd control, and especially if you are trying to avoid damage from tougher enemies. Now, before I continue singing praises to this game, it is gonna be best to get the negatives out of the way. Because as much as I ended up loving this game, it has a few hiccups that were a bit disappointing. Also, some of them are tied to the story, so we can use that to segue into talking about that. Remember what I said about the Den Defense minigame and how Templars could counterattack anytime? That only happens if your Templar meter is full and your dens don't have a leader protecting it. In order to get rid of the pesky wanted posters or gaining notoriety for simply climbing a wall, the system this time around only rises up if you attack guards or if you purchase property. You can easily get rid of it by bribing heralds if your meter is high enough, or also killing witnesses. That means it is possible to miss the defense minigame completely, or even witness some of the mechanics of the full Templar awareness if you play the game too well, which sadly happened to me. Because of this, and because of the main map being the smallest one in the trilogy, that also renders the faction system redundant. I think I can count on one hand the number of scenarios where I wanted or needed to hire any of the main factions into helping me, and outside of their respective story missions, really good missions by the way, they ended up feeling like filler. Then, as much as the gameplay systems greatly improved, they brought back the one thing I come to despise in most Ubisoft games: the timer. See, Brotherhood made those missions a lot more tolerable and fun by requiring you to simply be within range of the person you are following. But for some bizarre reason, Ubisoft made it so following the person is not enough in this game. They also have to be in your line of sight. This means if you do something as petty as turning the camera to look away, or if as much of a pixel of a pillar come between you and your target, you get the stupid timer warning you the mission will fail if the time runs out. This is obnoxious. It treats players like they are stupid and it contributes nothing to the mission. They got rid of it in Brotherhood, so why they bring it back here, let alone allow it to make its way into other games like Watch Dogs, is beyond me. And then there is the mother storyline. My main problem with the mother story in this franchise is always going to be how underutilized it is. Even with all the major stakes that are building up to a major climax in Assassin's Creed 3, sadly, Revelations is not that different. After the shocking end of Brotherhood, Revelations has Desmond stuck in a place called the Animus Island. The idea is... hold on a moment. Much better. Anyway, he has fallen into a coma and he needs to gather the data fragments of his mind. And apparently whatever Ezio found in Altair's library is very important for the modern day, to the point the Animus won't allow him to wake up until he reaches this. On the one hand, it's very interesting. For one, we get to meet Subject 16, Desmond's predecessor who's been secretly helping us from the grave, and on the other hand, it is revealed to us that Desmond is not the random unremarkable New Yorker we thought he was. He is the son of an assassin leader and was born into the Brotherhood life. A life he wanted to leave behind but managed to find him once more when the Templars kidnapped him. And we learn all of that through some first-person platforming challenges. There are 5 sequences of it, and in order to unlock them, you need to at least have half of the collectible Animus fragments. It made for a nice incentive to explore the map and start looking them up, and it was nice learning more about Desmond. But it still disappointed me, because well, a first-person challenge where your only way of moving around is by spawning platforms on your feet is nice, but not what it comes to mind when it comes to Assassin's Creed. Neither is having the backstory fed to me through narration, because as the saying goes, show, don't tell. Thankfully, showing is something the other 2 layers of Revelations actually end up excelling at. While looking to reveal the truth behind Altair's library, Ezio ends up experiencing his own Animus-esque adventure with the Massive Keys. Every time he collects one, he sees a fragment of Altair's memories, and of course that means Altair is also a playable character. A 5-sequence story that tells us what happened to him after his own adventure. As usual, I am keeping this spoiler free, but the long and the short is, Altair's life was a difficult one. Rough choices had to be made, and he paid a high price for every one of them. And it is through those flashbacks that Ezio learns both about the past of the Brotherhood and about himself, with one of the many truths revealed to him being that maybe, just maybe, it's not too late for him to start loving again, to start over once his adventure comes to an end, and to know the life of the assassin is not the only thing he can do.
Let me see what I can do. I know a few ways to bend the rules.
Do you now?
What I like the most about the story in this game is that while finding the keys is Ezio's main objective, the road leading into them ends up being a collection of really great stories. There is political intrigue as usual, there is societal unrest, and a constant invitation for you to mess around with the world in any way you want, helping spread curses from the gypsies, or even causing riots to disrupt the government so you can further your own goals. All of this, of course, culminating in an underground adventure as you make your way through some of the most fun obstacle courses the game has to offer, and then reward you with the keys to the library. What I ended up appreciating the most about this game is how often you can end up thinking outside the box. I'm gonna give you an example. Some objectives are sometimes hidden behind enemy lines, meaning in order to get there you have to use your smoke bombs or just downright kill the guard stationed there. But what if there is another way, like climbing the tallest building nearby, jumping off, and parachuting into the enemy camp and grabbing your reward? Or disrupting enemy patrols without even having to engage them in combat, either by poisoning one of the guards, or sniping them all one by one with a crossbow, and wiping them out without even realizing what hit them. Or better yet, kill a guard from a distance, cause his friends to go over to inspect his corpse, and then slip by their patrols unnoticed. Or, if you want to, you can just bypass an entire stealth section by using the buildings around you to sneak around and get into the area with the target, with none of the patrols being any wiser to your actions. It's the kind of improvisation that is making me really fall in love with this franchise, because even with the limitations of yearly releases, there is still a lot of genuine fun to be had here, and the historical side continues to be the highlight. I want to say I wish the mother story got any better, but given how old this franchise is and what is coming, I am not holding my breath. And while I would love to see a proper New Game Plus feature, I'm glad you can still replay previous story missions so you can complete any of the optional objectives, and still retain your latest equipment. So replayability is there, to the point this is the first game I actually 100% completed. So in the end, I think Revelations is the culmination of everything the developers learned over the course of this trilogy. I said this in the Brotherhood review, and I think it was correct. If I am to recommend a particular entry in this series, please play the entire Ezio trilogy. This is the only overarching story that is told in chronological order, and one I believe pays off quite well. It's gonna be difficult to see if the KNY and the Rebel sagas measure up to it, because from 3 and onwards we're going to be jumping all over the past, and I am playing them in release order, so I will have to put together the puzzle in a different way. Also, I think I will take a little break from open world games for a bit. I love playing them, but talking about them when I have a self-imposed weekly schedule can be quite stressful, so I will have some goodies prepared in between before we close off the Desmond saga. And trust me, it will be well worth the wait.